Welcome back to this discussion on information society. We had a very useful discussion on the concept of information society, the coming of the information society from the earlier societies, the agrarian and the industrial society. We'll continue the discussions. We were discussing that the responsible factors for the coming of information society, and in that Professor Sen was mentioning about the invention of the printing press, the movable type, and the ink as well as the paper, and thus these making the communication easier, better, in fact communication possible between people. Professor Satyanarayana would like to add on this fact. I would request you to please say.
Thank you. Well, Professor Sen has indicated the earlier developments. The most important landmark which triggered the commencement or emerging of information society is the invention of computer. This is one thing which has triggered a lot of changes, and it is not simple change, it is a revolutionary change, because the invention of computer not only increased and improved the communication aspects, but there has been a combination, a combined effect of computer technology and what is called communication technology. Both communications, earlier era, communications were used only for communicating transmission of information, whereas computers were used for processing of information, and there was a marriage between computers and communications, and a new subject or new discipline emerged which was at that time known as communications, and now it is known as ICT. You see, communications is nothing but a fruitful marriage between what was earlier simple communications and what was earlier simple computer science. You see, in that stage communications were used as transmitting methodology, and computers were used for processing information in large quantums and storing and dissemination of information. But the marriage of computer technology with communications technology, that has resulted and triggered off a lot of revolutionary changes which moved the society from information, from post-industrial society to the information-based society and towards the emerging of information society. That means computers, communications, and the marriage between computers and communication technologies have empowered information processing, storing, distribution in such a fashion that there has been a revolutionary change insofar as movement of information is concerned, insofar as communication of information from one place to another is concerned, and in fact the entire globe became a village insofar as generation, creation, processing and dissemination of information is concerned. This computerization aspects, scientific developments and innovations, and the marriage of computer and communications has triggered a revolutionary change which goes by the name of information age or information society.
Okay. So, just to see these particular definitions by two authorities, let us have a look on that. One on by Cronin, and we have already discussed this, is that in which labor has been intellectualized. So this particular statement doesn't hold true now, to earn one's daily bread by the sweat of the brow, but it is by the information or the brain or the mind, as we can say. And the other is, it is a very important statement that is regarding the information society, that it is a society that is a stage in the evolution of community brains towards a world brain. I would like Professor Sen to comment on that regarding information society. Evolution towards community brain and then towards world brains.
Yes, now that is, once upon a time the information they were individual. So we have seen earlier days that he is going for a person who was knowing about medicine, he was not disclosing it to others. The reason being that his knowledge will get away and his importance in the society will get reduced. This situation continued for a long time, even during the Greek period. That is, Pythagoras, he told his students that whatever you learn from me, whatever knowledge you generate, you will have to publish all those things in my name. As a result, the writings of Pythagoras, it extends more than 100 years. Obviously, many of the writings will pertain to Pythagoras, but today, to his students. Today we do not know or do not have any means whereby we can say which was written by Pythagoras and which were by his students. Now gradually the situation started changing, because the knowledge which people had, say in our olden days of Vedas, their writing was not there, but it was being communicated orally and they were to remember. That is Shruti, you hear, and Smriti, you remember. Then a time came when writing evolved, and in this matter, of course, in Mohenjo-daro, in our Indus Valley civilizations, we encounter writings. Also, in a very large amount of writings we find in the Egyptian civilization. Even today, and their writings fortunately has been deciphered, whereby we have come to know about their society, about the kings and queens who reigned, and all these things we have come to know. Then a time came, that is invisible, that is, I am jumping from that to the invisible college. There, that is, scientists in those days, whichever discoveries they were making or whichever research they were doing, they used to do almost all in great secrecy, thinking that if this thing becomes known to the religious people, they will kill us. Now, we know how Aristotle had to suffer, had to die, or Giordano Bruno was burnt at stake. So all these are known. As a result, the knowledge, that is transmission of knowledge, globalization, leave aside, just transmission of knowledge from one person to the other was a very difficult task. Society was like this. At least Western society, in Indian society, it was not that strict. Then in 16th century, that is the time of Renaissance. Renaissance started in Italy in the late 15th century, and in the 16th century the invisible colleges, 17th century, 1660s, the invisible colleges, etc., they started coming up, where they were discussing matters secretly, and such things also came up, and it is France where a scientific society was established with the permission of the king. This was followed in England also. A Royal Society was established in 1660s, and thereafter That is, this side in France started Journal de Savoir, that side philosophical transactions, within a very short period. And that gave birth to the freedom of dissemination of information, that is not only from one person to another, but from one person to the entire world. That is, these two periodicals, they were meant for the world, and information started going or started moving from one place, from one person, from one place to the entire world. But in those days, it used to take time. It is said that C.V. Raman, he sent the news of his invention by a big telegram. It was a short communication. It was sent by a telegram. Another person in the Soviet Union, another scientist, he also discovered the same thing at the same time, but he sent it by post. C.V. Raman's telegram reached 1 month earlier, and he was given the credit for the discovery of Raman effect. The delay was 1 month. So now at the present stage, if a paper has been sent today to a particular journal, the moment it has been received, at least some papers like Current Science, they have made it open. Anyone can see it, and on every month on 10th and 25th, the 2 issues of the journal are published, and just on 10th itself, if one goes to internet and open that page, he can find out what are the articles that have been published. So it is just in a few seconds one can know what is there. But previously, or even today, a journal from US or UK or Soviet Union or Japan, it takes sometimes months to reach us here by postal or by ship. So the globalization of information, it is because of the internet, as Mr. Professor Satana has pointed out, because of computer, because of ICT. So it has, globalization of information has taken place, but not really. Because today a journal is being published and it is appearing in the internet, in the website, fine. But you can't get the information unless and until you are having a password. In most of the cases, it is like this. For accessing information, immediately you need a password, and for the password, you are to pay money. For example, if I want to consult, I wanted to consult that how my book is faring, how many libraries are purchased, Telnet, then I learned that I cannot access it because I have to pay some 6,000 rupees or more to access the thing. So this, in the globalization of information, still this is a very big barrier, and I do not know when this barrier will break, but if you have got the money, you can get the information, and in that sense, information has been globalized. As far as open information is concerned, it is already globalized. And I'll only wish that this process of globalization of information, it should go on. A time will come when most of the important information will be available free, and anybody from anywhere in the world will be accessed.
So this is another aspect of information access, that is the cost associated with the information. So we will not be discussing much on this, but what we gather up to now, what we have discussed is that it is information, that is the occupations that are information intensive, and also the use of information in different activities that we undertake, that are the different, these are the characteristics of the information society. but a very important aspect, and that is related to the perception of the information society, that we have discussed in our course material also from 5 different points, that is the occupational, spatial, cultural, technological and the economic aspects. I would request Professor Satyanarayana to throw light on these different perceptions of the information society before we move to the knowledge society.
Well, thank you. A clarification about community and world brain.
Yes, sir.
The concept of community brain is that the information research has become more corporate and community oriented, and therefore networking of information and networking of information concepts make many people participate, many people involved in it, and it is the totality of the brains that are participating that can be called as a community brain. But a community brain becomes globalized and global brain only the information content of this community brain could be shared by everyone in the world. There again, as it was stressed by Professor Sen, it is the communication aspect and it is the computer networking aspect, it is the globalization of what is called a world computer network in the form of internet that has become a community brain that can be attributed as a global brain, globalization of the community brain, and globally the entire thinking capability is shared individually, community-wise and globally, and therefore individual brain thinking becomes, when it is shared, a community brain, and when a community brain ideas and information is shared by the process of networking and making it global in the form of internet, internet really becomes a global brain where all the crisscross, all the thinking that is associated with its retrospective, interactive and introspective aspects is available in one place, which is called a global brain. Okay?
Yes.
Then talking about the perceptions, different perceptions of information society. If we go through the literature available on information society, there are a number, thousands of articles and hundreds of books. All that is essential. When you go through these books, it will strike you what is the essence that you can gather out of all this. Information society is becoming a reality. Information is being used as most important ingredient of societal development, both for societal development as well as materialistic development of the community as well as the country and the world. Thirdly, when we are thinking of information society, what are the different hundreds and thousands of books written? They come into 5 categories. The first category treats that it is the technological developments more than other social and cultural developments that are most important and become one of the most important factors for the information society. In fact, it is called technological view, where technology is the significant aspect that is used as a metric for classifying a society into information society. But then there are certain difficulties. What is the measurement that you can adopt? Technology is there, technology is developing. What is the scale and when is the point reached? When is the threshold point reached when we can call this technological development status taking the shape of information society? This is the adverse criticism made about the school of people who think it is technological developments which are prima facie most important ingredients of information society. Then comes the second. The second aspect is economic aspect. You see, most of the people who write about economics of information or the economic aspect of information, first of all consider information as a goods which can be produced, which can be marketed, which can be distributed, which can be sold at a premium price, and the exchequer is enriched by the aspects. So, when we read these articles, particularly about the writings of Matlock and also Mark Porret, Lamberton, etc., you find that the amount of money added to the exchequer or to the budget of a particular country is becoming more and more on account of information, on account of marketability of information and its products. That is the thing. Therefore, they treat information as a goods, as a resource which can be produced, controlled, regulated, manufactured, distributed, priced, and made money or made wealth out of information. In other words, information as a source of wealth. Information going towards making a person, a country richer and richer. By selling information you make wealth, and it is the wealth and it is the GDP that matters, and the GDP is increased, and this school of people think that we are in the information economy age and entering information as one of the economic products which brings prosperity and production to the nation. That is the economic aspect. Then here also there are adverse criticisms. The real economics, of course Matlock was an economist, but there are certain real economists who question this. If information is an analytical tool, if information is a social constraint, how can you measure, how can you evaluate, how can you price, how can you make it into an economic resource? Is it that by selling information itself you are making national economy? How much can we make, and what are the techniques, what are the technologies that are making information as a sellable resource and giving to the exchequer a lots and lots of money? There are criticisms, adverse criticisms which people raise, real economists raise, that this cannot be considered as economic aspect, because by information alone you cannot get all the other things. By selling information alone you cannot get food, you cannot make other aspects which are essential for human life and societal progress. This is the concept, perception and concept. Then you have also cultural aspect. This school of people think it is the culture which is predominant, and the culture is coming because of use of information. People are developing, brains are developing due to use of knowledge and information. It is the community brain and global brain which is adding to the change in culture and also making culture of one country enter into the other country and make lot of transformations in the cultural reign. And therefore it is the cultural aspect which is more important when you are considering and measuring information society, and the most important measurement they say is culture. Okay? But again there are criticisms. Again there are people who do not agree. There are thoughts and debates about all these aspects. It is not that the final word has been said. People are arguing, people are debating, and books are coming, and perceptions are being interpreted and introspected. Okay? Then the other aspect is spatial aspect. Yes, this is one of the important aspects. Here again, technology, that is ICT, communications technology, and the combination and use of ICT makes the entire world reduce into a small space. In other words, as Professor Chand remarked, if a piece of information or if there is an invention taking place at this spot, at this juncture, in the present day context, in any place, in any corner of the world, the information is being disseminated, the information spreads in such a way like an epidemic, and within hours it reaches another place which is thousands and thousands of miles away. Therefore, spatial aspect, the space itself, distance between one point and the other, is reduced. This is because the connectivity aspect. Now everybody is connected with every other person. The connectivity, the empowerment for connectivity, the communications, the broadband transmission, etc., etc., the connectivity leading to globalization, information infrastructure of a nation, information infrastructure of the entire world is making the world into a small piece, and therefore any invention, any aspect of information which is created at one place reaches the other place within small amount of time, and therefore the spatial contraction takes place, and therefore the space distance is not a criterion for spreading information, dissemination of information, and therefore people consider the spatial reduction aspect as one of the important measurements for entering or for describing a society or for dominating a society, nomenclaturing the society into an information society. So these are the various perceptions. But ultimately, I would like to add one strong opinion which has been expressed in the following words. While people all over the world continue to talk about information society, and some would even believe and claim that they are living in such a society, there seems to have been little progress, if any, real progress made in the establishment of either some form of metrics, that is measurements, for measuring this phenomenon, or in marshalling the kind of evidence that would result in credibility. One is establishing metrics, that means defining characteristics which could be measured to find out whether a society has transformed itself from one industrial into information, or from one form the other, and secondly, the results which will make you believe that you have achieved the society, and the phenomenon, only for measuring that phenomenon, if you have certain methods and methodologies, only then you will achieve credibility. Otherwise, the debate will continue. Okay? Or in marshalling some kind of evidence that would result in the credibility. The absence of a criteria might lead to doubts about its status. In fact, some question, what is information society? Is it a useful social analytical tool, merely utopian forecast, or what is it? There seems to be, some would believe that information society concept provides neither an analytical tool nor it provides a coherent tool for social analysis, not even adequate set of social goals. Therefore, it is said that information society concept is such a concept about which many people have written. There was a symbolism about the term information, with information as a talisman for a new kind of society, a society in which reason and consciences set the tone rather than raw power and materialism. Reason and consciences. When we spoke of community brain, it is consensus arrived at. So reason and consensus set the tone to raw power and materials. You see, in fact, it is not power that is solving all your problems. It is information and knowledge and reasoning aspects and arriving at a general consensus that is leading you to settle all your problems, and therefore you are entering from the stage of individual brain to a community brain and then to what is called a global brain. It is these aspects which are stressed. So if one can find out certain definable characteristics and know a stage when the society has changed from one form to the other, then it is possible to say definitely either we have entered into the information society or still we are able to move around information society and not exactly entering into it.
But sir, at the same time we also, during discussions we say that in a country like India, we are witnessing all the different types of societies at the same time. And when we say that the matrix of the information society, when we are able to certainly say that it is information society, it comes to my mind why we are so bothered about really measuring and how difficult it is for a society to say that it is exactly information society. We are realizing the importance of information society. We believe that there are advantages, there are certain facilities, we are moving towards the betterment of the society with the developments that are taking place. I don't think that this particular view that we are not able to exactly measure how much this is going to help.
Well, all that you say is correct. In general terms, we can say information is one of the most important things that is leading to progress, both materialistic as well as economic, social and all that. That is there.
Yeah.
And this change is because of technological developments that have taken place in the form of computer, communications technology, and using of this technology more and more to achieve inventions in scientific research and other areas of knowledge creation, knowledge engineering and knowledge management. Therefore, all these aspects, if we are talking in a particular context of information becoming more and more important for progress as well as for development, then we say we have entered into the information age. In fact, it is said that USA, Japan and other Western countries have already entered the information stage because information is being used for social, societal and economic developments there, and the results are obvious.
Yes.
Results are obvious.
Yes. This is what is observed in this particular statement. I will just show this slide and Professor Sen would continue. This says that information society is one in which use of information is central to social development and organizational management. But at the same time it says, it's very important, absence or presence of high degree of automation is not the determining criteria, though there is a high degree of correlation between the amount of information used and the degree of technology penetration. Yes sir, Professor Sen, please continue.
Now, the question of developing a matrix is coming up at a time when we have already decided our agrarian society, industrial society, post-industrial society, on what metrics we have decided them. If we have decided them on certain metrics and the world has accepted it, now what is the difficulty in using the same metrics for determining whether a particular country has entered into information society or not? So why such a question is coming? Now in the agrarian society, as I have already pointed out, industrial society, post-industrial society. That is, agrarian society matrix was that the labor that was involved, percentage of labor that was involved in agriculture. In the industrial society, percentage of labor that was involved in industry. Wherever it was more than 50%, it is that society. Now, where is the difficulty in applying the same metrics to determine information society? I really don't understand why they are raising this question.
So there are certain parameters on the basis of which we can say, this is what you want to say, that like the people occupied in the information based industry and society, the use of information communication technologies, this can be used. But I think Professor Satyanarayana, what he means to say when he says that the exact percentage, and to that he says it could be 50% or more.
Not only that, it is not my opinion I express. It is, I said, there are many people
Yes.
who are still writing about information society, who are feeling that criteria for establishing or for nomenclaturing one society from one stage to the other is not there in the sense of, you see, when you consider GDP, when you consider total workforce, when you take sectors, sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, etc. In the economy there are different sectors. There is now information sector. And in any country and in any society, when the exchequer is made more and more totally accountable on account of the goods manufactured by the information society and the materialistic progress arrived at by the society by the use of information and knowledge, then that particular society is being nomenclatured as information society. There is a debate. Economists are divided, not Professor Satyanarayana. The statement is that some economists still believe that information is only a natural resource. It is not a goods which can be marketed in the sense of other economic goods, and it cannot be given the same value as other economic goods. This is economist's view, not Satyanarayana's view.
Yes.
Therefore, what I would say is that, as Professor Sen says, if the development is there and if the change that has occurred in the society on account of use of information and knowledge is such that it has upturned the earlier developments and it has become such a force that it has made accountable change and the society has transformed into a different form altogether, then we have to call the society as information society, and the agent that is making that society, if it is information, definitely there cannot be any gainsaying the fact that we have arrived at the information society and we are in the information society. One more point I would like to add as a last point is that knowledge, the classical scholarly knowledge, is not the aspect that is considered. It is the organizational knowledge, and in the organizational aspect, earlier it is information is not considered as one of the resources of the organization, but now it is called intellectual investment and intellectual aspect and organizational asset. Therefore, entering into a stage when information can be captured, information can be processed, information can be engineered and use it towards material and other developments, both economically as well as socially and otherwise, it is entering into a stage which is definitely different, which is transforming the society, and you are seeing the effects of such a transformation, and which was never there. which was never there during the history. And therefore, we say historically it is not an evolution from one form to the other, but it is a revolutionary change that has occurred, particularly from industrial society to information and knowledge based society, or knowledge society as many people call it. This is my way of telling it, and this is how I understand all these writings.
Let us have Professor Sain's views on the knowledge society and the knowledge based society.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes. Now, I won't go into the controversy of knowledge-based society and knowledge society. For the time being, let us take them as synonymous
Yes, sir.
or near synonyms.
Yes.
One thing is certain, that information itself cannot bring about change unless and until the knowledge contained in the information is understood and that is utilized. So here, that is, suppose you have got a book, it contains information, and if nobody understands it, there will not be any knowledge. However important knowledge may be there in that, it can be used. If knowledge cannot be used, then no change can be made. So whatever changes that we are seeing in the world, that is because of knowledge. And let me tell you that this knowledge is contained in information. Sometimes it is not also. That is, it is not necessary that every bit of knowledge should be contained in information. Suppose Professor Satyanarayana knows something, but he has never recorded it, he has never told this thing to anybody else. As a result, there is no information about this, but knowledge is there. So in a knowledge society, knowledge is more important than information. I think Professor Satyanarayana has also hinted towards that. It is basically the knowledge which are changing the society, which are changing the attitude of the person, which are bringing, or which is creating a global village, which is giving birth to a global brain and all that. So we will have to, and here when we have said information society, or people said information society, at that time possibly they have not thought deeply that it is not information which is changing the world. It is the knowledge contained in information which is changing the world, and change is coming when a knowledgeable person, because when knowledge starts residing in the brain of a person, the person becomes knowledgeable, and utilizing his knowledge, he can discover things, he can invent machines, he can innovate things, and he can have conceptions, he can have imaginations, and he can get those things implemented again by utilizing his knowledge. So for me, information society is possibly a misnomer. It should have been named knowledge society, which has brought about all these changes in the world.
So this is a matter of views that we call it by what name, but then there have been discussions, there have been writings, and we have realized the importance of the changes in the society that are taking place, and we are really very thankful to our learned experts, Professor Satyanarayana and Professor Sen, for having given us this time and opportunity to learn about these very difficult concepts, otherwise very abstract concepts of information society and knowledge society. We had some very useful examples from them, and we hope to have more discussions, more learning more from them in the future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.